it feels like people kind of underplay some of the games that James Harden has had. Nobody's sitting here saying James Harden is some elite playoff player, but he does have games like this in his past in the playoffs. James Harden dropped 45 in the Western Conference Finals against the Golden State Warriors in 2015. In the first round against Oklahoma City, he dropped 44. In the first round against Minnesota in 2018, he dropped 44. He's had a lot of these games. He's actually had 9 40-point games in the playoffs before tonight. Now, I would argue that I don't think he's had a bigger one. I think there is a real case that this is James Harden's best playoff game ever. If you look back through the history, maybe you would say, the 45.9 rebound, 5 assist game against Golden State in that 2015 Western Conference Finals, where he's going up against Draymond Green, Stephen Curry, Harrison Barnes, Andrew Bogut, Klay Thompson, obviously. That is a real case here. I'm not going to sit here and deny that. He's playing with Josh Smith. He's playing with Jason Terry. Similar to tonight, he was undermanned. That didn't matter tonight. James Harden was absolutely unbelievable in this game. And I think a big part of why is the way that Boston defended him. Boston, I think, gave him too many easy looks throughout this game. I think that Boston, with its lack of adjustment in terms of the way that they were playing him in ball screens, allowed James Harden to manipulate them and get what he wanted on the court. Typically, defensively, you want to try and disrupt what the offensive player is doing. That goes without saying, but the goal is typically to try and get the offensive player out of rhythm, to try and make life a little bit harder, to try and give him different looks, or if the look is working, to try and continue with that same look. Boston didn't do any of that. They let him dictate the pace. They let him dictate the matchups that he wanted. And that's why James Harden went for 45 in this game. It's because whenever James Harden can control and dictate the tempo of a game, he's going to be remarkably successful. That's what it comes down to. That's who James Harden is. He is one of the best ball screen players we've ever seen in NBA history. And I think that on that note, it's worth us diving into the tape here, because James Harden tonight, I thought, was absolutely spectacular in the way that he manipulated Boston's defenders. This is the one, this got him to 3 for 3 on the night, I believe. The first 2 were little mid-range jumpers. This one is the one where I was like, oh, we're in for something tonight. What you're going to notice here, you're going to notice a step-up screen from Paul Reed, his hips parallel to the foul line, parallel to the baseline. He's going to set this little step up, and Marcus Smart just goes a little bit too deep into the paint. James Harden steps back, gets it. He's in a rhythm at this point already. I believe this is 7 points on 3 shots in 4 minutes of this game. As you see, Joel Embiid, very happy. Again, you're going to see Paul Reed throw this ball out to James Harden. This is at the 7:45 mark of the first quarter. And again, a nice, beautiful little step-up screen from Paul Reed. I thought when Paul Reed was asked to do step-up screens as opposed to normal ball screens that are perpendicular to the baseline, I thought Paul Reed did a very good job screening. As we'll see later on, I think that some of his other screens were particularly poor, which made it even more impressive that James Harden got loose. But I think that in these moments, what you're going to see here is that there were a lot of Paul Reed step-up screens that made it a little bit harder for Boston to defend. So here, James Harden calmly knocks down another 3. That's 4 for 4 at this point. 7:41 left in the first quarter. Here, we're at 3:10 left in the first quarter now. And James Harden has the ball on the outside. He's going to take just a little ghost screen from Jalen McDaniels. I always confuse the Jalen and Jaden. This is Jalen on the Philadelphia 76ers. And another thing that Boston did throughout the course of this game is you saw in the first 2 clips, Al Horford dropped in those first 2 clips. That was drop coverage from the step-up screen from Paul Reed. Al Horford sank into the paint. They wanted to let James Harden beat them early from 3. Then, by this point, at the 3-minute mark of the first quarter, Joe Mazzulla decided that we're going to try and give James Harden a slightly different look, and we're going to switch this action. They switch it with Grant Williams. This did not go well for Grant Williams. I have no idea why he was trying to put his chest out like that and trying to bump James Harden. He just completely whiffed. He airmails. That is an easy floater for James Harden to get in the paint. Here we go again. James Harden here at about the 3:11 mark. We're about a quarter past where we were in the previous clip. This is the 3:11 mark of the second quarter. James Harden's going to get the ball. DeAnthony Melton, who is being guarded by Jason Tatum, is going to set a pure ghost screen where no point in any circumstance does he try and stop his momentum. He just goes through. And then coming from the other side, Paul Reed comes up and sets a ball screen right at the top. This is a pretty good screen from Reed. This might be the only example that I can really think of where he caught full body on a non-step-up screen in this game. He gets James Harden that little bit of separation, and because of it, Jason Tatum has to step up. Now, the problem here, if you'll see this from Boston, is I think that Jason Tatum does not quite realize, or is that that's actually Malcolm Brogdon. It's not Jason Tatum. What Malcolm Brogdon does not realize here is that he has Jaylen Brown right behind him, and that is Jaylen's man, Paul Reed. Jaylen is essentially playing drop coverage here. Malcolm Brogdon just slides off of DeAnthony Melton here, thinking that it's his coverage for some reason. Really, Jaylen Brown is right there. Jaylen Brown is ready to accept the oncoming James Harden drive, and he's coming forward to try and stop a potential James Harden step back. This is a Malcolm Brogdon mistake here. Malcolm Brogdon slides off of DeAnthony Melton. DeAnthony Melton was enormous for Philadelphia in the first half. He makes 5 of 6 from 3 in this game. I believe that all 5 of those came in the first half. Might have been 1 came in the second half off the top of my head, but he was enormous in this game. He kept their offense alive and flowing when James Harden particularly was off the court at times, it felt like. So an enormous shot there from DeAnthony Melton on a bit of a mistake there from Malcolm Brogdon. Here, again, I believe it's 2 possessions later, 2:40 mark of the second quarter. This is, again, just a little ghost screen into a step-up screen from Paul Reed. It's beautiful action. Here's James Harden snaking, slithering, driving past, and forcing Al Horford to engage. He makes Al Horford engage in this screening action, and it sets up Paul Reed for an easy bucket. A terrific pass there from James Harden to Paul Reed. Here we go again. Another play here. This is right at the end of, I believe, the second quarter in this game. 21 seconds left in the half. James Harden, he's going to take just a regular ball screen from Tobias Harris. And again, this is something that you see a lot more in the second half. The Celtics gave James Harden the switch whenever he wanted it, it felt like. The only time they really didn't is when Rob Williams was on the court and they let Rob purely drop. They let James Harden dictate this coverage here. They're going to let Al Horford be stuck on an island with James Harden. And then for what I think is the only time this game, and Boston fans can correct me if I'm wrong here, they actually send a double at James Harden. They actually trap him. They try and blitz him in some way. I don't think this was really preordained. I think this was just an improv for Marcus Smart here. Marcus Smart makes this decision to come off of his man, and Harden recognizes it. He immediately hits DeAnthony Melton in the middle of the court. And because Marcus Smart came off of his man and had pre-switched off of James Harden in that initial screening action, Tobias Harris is wide open. Absolutely wide open here. And this is a shot that Tobias Harris is going to make every time. I would hope that did not scare off Boston from putting 2 on the ball. The fact that Marcus Smart had a late improvisational decision to come and put 2 on the ball and make James Harden beat them with passing. And he did it in that one circumstance, so the team did not do it moving forward. But here, we're getting into the third quarter now, 7 minutes left in the third. What you're going to see here is this is kind of an ice that just turns into a switch against Al Horford. And Al Horford, I guess you're relatively happy to have this shot from Harden. It is a mid-range shot, I guess, but It's contested. It's fine. This is why you play ice in those circumstances, even if the ice, I think, did turn into just a pure switch there. But again, Harden is rolling at this point. I think that you're giving this up. And this is the prime example of giving up a switch too easily in my mind. You're going to see throughout the second half here, James Harden is dictating and he's asking guys to come up and set screens for him. He's telling guys who he wants to set screens and who he doesn't. Here, you're going to see him point. He's going to point. He's telling, I believe that is the Anthony Melton there, who's being guarded by Sam Hauser, that he wants to be the guy. He wants him to be the guy to come up and set the screen. So Paul Reed runs through, which sends, I believe that is either Derek White or Jason Tatum. I think it might be Jason Tatum through. And because he knows that the Celtics are essentially switching 1 through 4 around, he knows that this is just going to be a switch. He knows that Sam Hauser is going to switch on to him. Sam Hauser does fine here, I guess. James Harden misses the shot. But this is not an advantageous matchup for Boston. This is not what you want if you're the Boston Celtics. You do not want Sam Hauser on an island with James Harden. This is not an advantageous situation for you if you're the Celtics. He just happened to miss. But again, you're going to see James Harden point here. He's asking for these specific things. He is asking for real matchups here. And it's just a little bit too easy at 3:30 in the third quarter for him to get these shots. And this is a shot. This is a situation that would continue to play out throughout the game. And that's a real problem. So here, I wanted to highlight this one because throughout this game, it felt like James Harden was very comfortable with Jaylen Brown on him. For whatever reason, it felt like the two matchups that he really wanted outside of the bigs were Malcolm Brogdon and Jaylen Brown. The guys, he didn't really want Jason Tatum on him. He tried to avoid Marcus Smart. They tried to get Smart switched off of him whenever they could. And then he didn't really want Derek White in those moments either. He was very comfortable with Jaylen Brown. Here, he just beats Jaylen Brown off the bounce with relative ease. This is a matchup he was very comfortable with. So here, that was at the 7:15 mark of the fourth quarter. This is going to be the next possession down at the 7:05 mark. What I kind of wanted to showcase here is that, again, I mentioned earlier that a lot of the screeners for the 76ers were not particularly good in this game. And James Harden still found a way to get loose. It kind of feels like Marcus Smart just kind of gets stuck in the mud there. And he can't actually recover. Whatever happened to his footwork there just kind of got him a little bit off balance and he got stuck. So here you're going to see a fake dribble handoff by PJ Tucker. And instead of Al Horford, this is the one that actually kind of pissed me off a little bit. All of this is leading to my point of why in the world, if you are the Boston Celtics, why are you not blitzing the ball out of James Harden's hands every time? Your options here are we can let James Harden try and beat us by playing straight up, or we can let PJ Tucker try and beat us. Or if it's Paul Reed trying to, be the short roll guy, we can let Paul Reed try to beat us. There was never a point in this game where Boston decided we're going to try and blitz. We're going to try and put two on the ball as a strategic decision. And I think that's where the breakdown is happening for me in terms of not understanding how Boston lost this game. This is like a fairly easy adjustment to me. You want to put two on the ball against James Harden in moments where they don't have Joel Embiid. Look on the court here. Tyrese Maxey isn't even on the court here, I believe. Like this is not Tyrese is going to come around there. No, that's Jalen McDaniels. Yeah. So this is not a circumstance. No, I'm sorry. Tyrese is in the corner there, but regardless, like you're comfortable if any one of Jalen McDaniels or PJ Tucker beats you on this possession. That's what you want if you're the Boston Celtics. And if you have to rotate out to Tyrese Maxey, Tyrese played a great game tonight. He was phenomenal in this game. He went for, as I pull up the box score, he went for 26, but he did it on 24 shots. It took them quite a while to get there. It took them a lot of opportunities to get there. James Harden dropped 45 on 30. And to me, I'm letting anybody beat me but James, especially in the fourth quarter, especially after we've seen what we've seen. I'm letting anybody beat me but James Harden at this point. And again, this is just an easy possession here for Al Horford to come up after this in trap. You want to come up here in trap, in my opinion. You want to get the ball out of James Harden's hands. You have Marcus Smart there who's guarding Jalen McDaniels. If you're Al Horford here, you want to come up, you want to put 2 on the ball. PJ Tucker's going to short roll, but that's where Marcus Smart is anyway. You're very comfortable if PJ Tucker short rolls into that area to be the release valve, especially with 5 seconds left on the shot clock. Okay, maybe PJ Tucker hits Jalen McDaniels. By that point, you're going to have 2 seconds left on the shot clock. This is going to lead to a 3 from Jalen McDaniels in all likelihood. If we play this out, if Al Horford had blitzed. Instead, he sits back, and that's a wide open 3 for James Harden. That is a wide open 3 for James Harden at 5:49. That is the exact kind of situational thing where it makes all the sense in the world to put 2 on the ball and to get the ball out of James Harden's hands. For whatever reason, Joe Mazzulla and the Boston coaching staff chose not to do that. This one here comes at the end of the game. This is the 47-second mark, and this is kind of where I just want to get into another concern I have with Boston here moving forward. This is something we saw in the Atlanta series as well. For whatever reason, their late-game offense has been a train wreck throughout the course of the playoffs. And this is one where I can't really point to Mazzulla. This is one where I think this is more on the players. The players here kind of feel like they just don't want to take the shot. I mean, that's an opportunity. Tatum had an opportunity there. Brogdon had an opportunity there, and he throws it away to Tyrese Maxey. We can blame coaching as much as we want, but these guys have to be willing to just be the guy that takes it on their shoulders. And for whatever reason, late in games for Boston, it feels like they're in like paralysis by analysis mode where they're constantly trying to survey the court and make the right pass more than anything. The Celtics are not doing that throughout the course of this playoff run. Someone needs to take it on. It probably needs to be Jason Tatum at the end of the day or Jaylen Brown. But it feels like they've had a lot of big turnovers in big spots in this game and in this playoffs. So here, this is the final possession for the Philadelphia 76ers. What you're going to see here, again, this is like a fine screen, I guess, from PJ Tucker, but Marcus Smart spins around it with ease. Like Marcus Smart gets around this screen well to where if James Harden, if he wants to recover onto James, he's there. That is comfortable. And again, if they want to put 2 on the ball here, that's what I would do. I would put 2 on the ball. I would say, let's go. Let's give the ball to PJ Tucker in that short roll area. We're going to have probably the low man rotate up, which in this case, I think was Jaylen Brown. We have a same side helper there, which means if they kick it out to George Niang, we're going to be able to help onto George. You have to assume that Tyrese is then going to pull up to the wing, but I'm comfortable with making my team X out there if I'm a coach. I'm fine with making Malcolm Brogdon shoot down to the corner if it's Niang, or stay home on Tyrese Maxey to start the possession, but shoot down to the corner if they end up kicking it out to George Niang. And you know what? If George Niang beats me on an open 3, because PJ Tucker makes a high-level passing read out of short rolls, something he's done throughout his career, undeniably. That's something I'm more than comfortable with. It's absolutely something I'm more than comfortable with. Here, James Harden is just ISO'd on Al Horford. And I think Al Horford did as well as he possibly could have on this possession. I think Al Horford did a great job here. But you know what? That's kind of like a side angle contest because Harden gets to the sidestep. And when Harden gets to that sidestep, it's kind of curtains. And then the final possession here for Boston, what you're going to see again, just a total breakdown. A total breakdown where there's no way that they want Marcus Smart to be taking the shot. Like, I just refuse to believe that. You have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I cannot imagine that the goal here is to get Marcus Smart isolated on the block with James Harden, because James Harden's actually a pretty good post defender, first and foremost. I'm actually like not entirely sure what the goal is here in terms of what they were running. I was thinking originally it was almost like, I believe that's Derek White was going to be like slipping to the basket in essentially like a double pin down. And then they were going to have Jaylen Brown come up and try and get that ball. But I actually am like not totally sure what the play was here. Maybe Marcus didn't let it develop enough to where it was something that was happening. I'm like not 100% sure there. And that's Jason Tatum that'd be cutting to the basket, by the way, not Derek White. I'm just very confused on the process here, I guess. I'm not totally sure what the goal was. It was a bizarre performance from the Boston coaching staff here, in my opinion. I just don't know what their goal was. I don't know what their plan was. And really the only thing that you had to do in this game was make life harder for James Harden. If you do that, it's going to be very difficult for Philadelphia to create shots and to create positive opportunities. And something Sharp says in the YouTube comments here, Malcolm Brogdon said after the game he thought they doubled Harden too much, which I thought was weird because I didn't remember them doubling much. I mean, maybe they did off the ball. I don't really think they did, if I'm being completely honest. But in the moments that mattered, they very, very rarely doubled him on the ball. They very rarely tried to get him away from the ball in those moments. So that feels odd to me that he said that. Malcolm is a very, 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 very intelligent person who is smarter than I am. So maybe he has something. I would have to go back and watch the tape again. I will say I've watched this game twice now and I don't really see it. I had to watch this game twice because I was like so staggered by what occurred. I could not possibly believe that the Celtics lost a game without Joel Embiid playing for Philadelphia, where they shot 59, 39, 94 in the game. And look, there were a few other factors. I think that Philadelphia played an incredibly clean game. They only turned the ball over 6 times. Do you know why they only turned the ball over 6 times? Because James Harden had the ball in his hands all the time and you didn't pressure him. Yeah, it was pretty staggering. That was a very bizarre Boston Celtics performance. And just strategically, they had one job and they didn't do it. They didn't really, I almost don't blame the players there. Like, the players have to execute defensively, obviously, but like, I think that there were a lot of times where they were pretty okay in terms of the execution. It felt like to me that there was just not the right strategy being employed by the coaching staff in ball screen defense in order to make James Harden's life more difficult. And I put this loss kind of on that coaching staff. It's hard for me to watch their late game offense, and it's hard for me to watch what I saw in terms of their schematics and not put that loss at anyone other than Joe Mazzulla and company's feet. That was a weird one. That was a weird game.